So I started playing music, I guess I was 4 or 5. My mom, my dad were a part of this spiritual group that was a chanting and meditation group. So from very early, I was kind of chanting and making noise. I played a drum when I was a kid.
Well, I was very young. I was about, I think, 4 years old. So I saw some live concerts. I was very impressed with the violin. And apparently asked my parents every day for a year, at least that's the story they tell, if I could study violin.
It is a big part of my life. It's hard to pinpoint my first contact with music, but I think my first one was listening to my uncle play blues guitar in a blues band.
I've never not had a relationship with music. I've started playing violin when I was like 3. I've been doing all sorts of different music things since then, so like I really can't remember a time when I didn't play music. For our first concert, the concert was West, and so we sort of had this prompt to write something that would be related to the West Coast and sort of, I guess, just the idea of the West in general. But it also just made me think of the concept of California Girls, and there are a number of songs called California Girls, so I thought I would turn it into a multi-movement sort of piece and deal with each one of those songs separately. So it ended up being arrangements of Beach Boys' California Girls, Katy Perry's California Girls, and the Magnetic Fields' California Girls, which all are pretty radically different in terms of tone of the song. I mean, it's an interesting challenge to figure out how to take pieces that are highly vocal. I mean, they all have lyrics and they're sung and they have choruses, and I didn't really want to make them vocal pieces, so I sort of had to keep those elements that are in the vocal lines but make them instrumental, and what I came up with was they all sort of got slowed down and became very, very mellow, so I ended up referring to them as 3 meditations on California Girls. They're kind of sedate and mellow, and they're sort of designed to put you in a certain headspace. Being at the Hammer and doing all this stuff in it, what is a really kind of different environment, I think has been really, really good, and it certainly allows us a different relationship with our audience.
So the first event from our spatial music series was called Are You Supposed to Listen to Your Neighbors? And the idea of this was to invite 4 separate duos to come to the Hammer with the obligation of listening to each other, to ask each of these duos to be in the space and perhaps to listen to each other or not, and that being their only obligation, to make a distinctive choice to listen or to not to listen. I expected certain interactions, but other interactions ended up wholly unique. was really fascinating to hear. Because there was no way we could rehearse it. And there was no way the piece could be reenacted from a rehearsal. It just had to happen as it was. So the only thing that people had universally in this group was a small passage of music from Akagama's Mass. So I felt like it was something that we could stand from a distance and then do back and forth. So myself and Andrew started playing that at the beginning. And then eventually later, Bobby took that melody and went over and stood in a corner, which a lot of people said was really distinctive and really so captivating to hear because you couldn't tell the location where it was coming from. Hammer spaces are really warmed by sound. They're harsh corners. When you have singers and string players and these people working in a space, it really turns it into something quite homey and quite warm, a real place, which I really enjoyed that day. I spent a lot of time listening. Took a little time off and playing. What else do you want to know about that day? Tell me.